Greetings, human children of Center School. I am a robot created by Mr. M. I am here to show you this week's activity. Step 1 of activity, gather supplies. You will need 1 human pencil. You will also need 1 paper with robot, half of robot on paper. Oh no, I hear Mr. M is coming. He does not want me to be in videos. He is worried that I will scare children. I must teleport away before Mr. M sees me. Oh, hey everyone. I thought I heard something in my laboratory. That was weird. Let me turn a light on here. Well, let's see. It's kind of weird. I don't remember leaving this paper out. This is our next activity. And we're gonna need this pencil too. So I guess it's already out here, so why don't we start the activity? Make sure you get this piece of paper and this pencil. Okay, let's get to work. All right, let's take a little closer at our look. Let's take a little closer look at our robot friend. So what we're going to be doing, we've given you this midline of his body. So what we're going to be doing is drawing the exact same parts of our robot on the right side where we have nothing. So there's a lot of detail here. So let's look at his head, and I'm going to show you a strategy. So before I start drawing his eyes and his ears and his mouth, I want to get the basic idea of where his head is. So I'm going to look at these points right here. I'm going to put some dots here, because I think these are the most important points of his head. So go ahead and draw some dots there. Now let's see let's try to find how many squares away from this midline these dots are. Okay, so let's start at the midline here. Let's count over 1, 2. Okay, so it took 2 squares to get to that dot. So let's start at our same place, this midline. Think of that just being the middle. And then let's go over 1, 2, and we're not going to draw a line. We're just going to draw a little dot. Okay. Now let's look at this dot down here. Okay, we're on the same line, and we're going to start from the midline, and we're going to count how many squares it takes to get to that dot. 1, 2. Okay, so I'm going to start at the same place, and I'm just going to go to the right this time. 1, 2. All right. Now that I've got these dots, I can just connect all the lines I need. All right, now that we have that, why don't you see if you can add his eyes and his nose and his mouth all on your own. And we'll come back and do the body together. So pause and finish his head. Okay, before we move on to his body, let's just make sure that his head is exactly right. His eyes, his mouth, and then his ear is probably the hardest thing to do. So check that it looks like mine, and pause and fix it if you need to. Remember, we're using a pencil, so we can always erase. And you may have noticed that I've been using fairly light lines, so that if I need to erase, it's a lot easier. Okay, let's take that same strategy for his body. So these are the points I want to find. This one, let's call this like the top of his body, and we'll call this the bottom. We'll say the top corner and the bottom corner. Okay, so we're going to start at our midline. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it took 3 squares to get over there, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put that point. Okay, let's find his bottom corner. 1, 2, 3. Took 3 squares, so you guessed it. We're going to go over 1, 2, 3. And then I can go ahead and connect them. Okay, let's take that same approach for his like box of buttons here. So let's find the top corner of that box and the bottom corner. Okay, and we're gonna, so here we went over 1, 2 squares, so we're gonna go over 1, 2 squares here. Oh, sorry, started the midline. 1, 2. Took 2 squares, so we're gonna go over 1, 2. So now we've got, so see, we're starting with the biggest shapes we can and the simplest shapes we can. Okay, you finish all the buttons and then we'll work on his arms and his legs. Okay, his arms and his legs are probably going to be the trickiest part. So let's look at all of the points that we need to find. Let's look at right here. We'll call this his shoulder. We'll call this one his armpit. We'll look at this guy. So we're not counting anything. We're just looking at what are the important ones. We'll call that the top of his elbow, or let's call that the outside of his elbow. And then right here, this one will be the inside of his elbow. And then we won't name these. These won't be as hard once we get down there. So the 2 points on the end of his arm. Okay, so let's find. So now we're not going to count away from the midline as much. We're going to use some other points to start from. So we got to find his shoulder. So the easiest way I think to do that is if we just find the top corner of his body, and all we have to do is go down 1 square to get to his shoulder. So here's the top corner of his body. So we went down 1 square. Okay, let's find his armpit. Start at that top corner. 1, 2. So go down 2 squares to get to his armpit. 1, 2. Okay. So now let's look at his outside elbow. So I think the easiest thing we can do, remember you can always pause this and rewind. Let's start at his shoulder and let's see how many squares we have to go to get to his outside of his elbow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here we are. That's his shoulder, that dot right there. 1, 2, 3. I'll make a point right there. Okay, now let's find the inside of his elbow. So start at his armpit this time. How many squares do we have to count over? 1, 2. Okay, start at his armpit. How many squares do we go over? We're supposed to go over 2 squares. 1, 2. Okay, now let's find this bottom part of his arm. Okay, so if we start at the inside of his elbow, we can just go down 1, 2. 2 squares. So there's the inside of his elbow. Let's go down 2 squares. 1, 2. All right, I bet you can find his other spot on his hand all by yourself, but we'll go ahead and do it. So let's start at the top of his elbow, right here, and we're going to go down 1, 2, 3 squares. So we're starting at the top of his elbow, and we're going to go down 1, 2, 3. And let's check, are they on the same line? Yep, they are. They're on the same line. Okay, so connect those dots for his arm, and then we'll start talking about his, sorry about that, we'll start talking about his leg. All right, let's look at his legs. So let's look at the points we want to do. Okay, I want to do this. I want to know where his leg starts. So here and here. And then get all these guys here. Maybe, I don't know if we'll name them this time. We'll see. Okay, so let's make sure we know where to start from. So now we're going to go back to counting from the midline. So let's see if we can find this guy. So we start from our midline. We're going to go, oh, just one square. So just go one square over. And then, how do we get to that dot? Start at the midline. 1, 2 squares over. Okay, so we're here at the midline. 1, 2. Okay, let's go ahead and find, let's find this point all the way down to the end of the page. So we can see that it lines up with this dot here. So let's just, we don't even have to, I guess we could count it, but we know it goes all the way to the end of the page. So you know what? Let's not even bother counting it. We just know that if we start at this dot here, and we go all the way down to the end of the page, we'll get it. Okay, now let's look at this dot here. We've got to start from this point, and we've got to go down how many squares? We've got to count this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're going to start here, and we're going to go down 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so that point we just drew, how do we get to the end of his big toe here? Oh, just 1 square away. So let's put that point down. And then our last point, just from his big toe, looks like we just come down 1. So we'll just come down 1. Okay, connect all those dots and you have finished the robot. Wow, look at that robot. Now, yours might not look quite like that. The important thing is that, you know, we're trying our best here and hopefully use pencil. So if you need to go back and fix anything, go back and fix those things. Wow, you know, this looks like, I never told you guys this, but I actually have a robot at my house. And yeah, this guy looks kind of like it. Yeah, he actually wants to be in the videos, but he's way too scary for you guys. So keep working hard. I can't wait to talk to you this week and send me some pictures. Okay, bye-bye.